Okay, good morning, everyone, and Chazak Ubaruch. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Monday morning as we are studying together Perashat Lech Lecha. Before we begin, I must say, and I'm sure you're all aware, but just to inform you, today is, of course, as we know, the Yortzeit of Chacham Ovadia Yosef, Chacham Ovadia ben Gurgia. Today's his Yortzeit, passed away a decade ago. Ruach Adonai Tanihenu Began Eden, Hu V'chol B'nei Yisrael HaShovim Mo. Amen. Chacham Ovadia Yosef. If anyone that got to meet him knows the amount of love that he had, not only for Torah, which is obvious, but his love for Am Yisrael and the Jewish people, and the extent that he went to save the Jewish people and to find zechut for the Jewish people and to try to help the Jewish people and to lift them up and to give them chizuk and musar. And although he was a very old man, he would have spent his entire life going from town to town, shul to shul, speaking and helping and lifting and inspiring. And that was the person that he was, the amount of hours of sleep that he lost on trying to write psakim, rulings for people to help them in their misery. Women that they're not sure if their husbands were alive or not after 9/11 or any other war, writing for them to allow them to remarry, agunot, things that no one would ever do. Chacham Ovadia, he went there and he found ways. He had the shoulders. We are learning every day from his psakim, from his rulings, from his teachings. We would be very, very lost today as a Jewish people without Chacham Ovadia Yosef. That is a fact. That is not my opinion. And every posek, Sfaradi or Ashkenazi worldwide recognized his genius, recognized his wisdom, and his ability to have clarity and his memory to bring from every possible source to derive at the halakha at its correct conclusion. And today, definitely dedicate a few minutes to maybe internalizing the life that he lived and asking ourselves, how can we today be a little bit more observant, maybe a little bit more knowledgeable in the halachot that he taught. Today there are many sfarim written translating his books into English. So if you don't know Hebrew, you don't have an excuse anymore. Have no fear, because the English is here. If anyone is interested, I have a friend who is the sole license of Chacham Ovadia's books in English distribution in America. And if you want to purchase the sfarim, they have them all over. You can order, and read up. Become knowledgeable, right? Self-taught. Educate yourself. Halachot Shabbat, halachot of whatever they start. I'm not sure what else they started to translate. I know they started with Shabbat, the laws of maybe family purity, Pirkei Avot. Okay, so these are all accessible today. Again, he was a giant that we will never see again in our lifetime. No matter how many rabbis will come up, we will never find another Chacham Ovadia Yosef in our lifetime. We are lucky to have been able to see at least one such gadol, someone who is definitely on the level of the greatest amongst our history of legends, of great scholars. Again, never to be repeated in our lifetime. But we Ashrei Ayin Ra'ata, lucky is the eye that got to see him. If you ever got a beracha from him, if you ever got a slap from him, even better. And today's is Yortzeit, Gimel Heshvan, a man who had over 1 million people at his funeral. 1 million people. Think about that number. That's not an exaggerated number. Okay, it's not exaggerating the turnout at the rallies. Okay, for president-elects or whatever. It's people. It's real numbers. 1 million people were at his Yortzeit, his funeral. Plus, many people wanted to fly in, they couldn't. Many people wanted to get into Jerusalem, that couldn't. You're talking about how many more would have been there, and it's for obviously just a testimony to his ability to connect with everyone and loved by all. So today's class will be as well the Elun Ishmat, Chacham Ovadia Yosef ben Gurgia, Ruach Adonai Tanihenu Began Eden Hu V'chol B'nei Yisrael HaShovim Mo. Amen. Zechuto yagen alenu. Amen. Okay, my friends, speaking about people who changed the world, we have our Parashat Lech Lecha, where we are introduced to one of the tests of Avraham Avinu, where God says to Avraham, and at this point in the Tanakh, he's still called Avram, without the hey, and he says to him, Lech Lecha. God says, leave, Lech Lecha, me'artzecha, mimolatecha, betavicha, ela aretz asher ar'eka. Now the truth is, we are actually introduced to Avraham already last week. We go back to the end of last week's Perashah, and the Pasuk says, Ve'ele toledot Terah. These are the children of Terah. Terah holid et Avram, ve'et Nahor, ve'et Haran. He had 3 sons, Terah, Avram, Nahor, and Haran. Haran holid et Lot. Haran gave birth to Lot, so that's Avraham's nephew, and we know all about Lot. He's going to be a important character over the next couple of weeks. Vayamot Haran al penei Terach aviv. But Haran dies al penei Terach aviv. I don't know what that means. On his father's face. Be'eretz molato be'ur kasdim. And not only did he die in his father's face, but he dies where they were born. And he was born in Ur Kasdim. Very weird pasuk. TMI. Too much information. Too much information. He died in front of his father's face. It was in Ur Kasdim. Relevant for me and you today, 2024. What is this teaching me? Why is Torah writing how Haran died? It does not matter for Jewish history. What is the lesson of here? So comes along the Midrash. Very famous Midrash. And you all heard this Midrash, bits and pieces of it. Today I'd like to share with you the Midrash. It'll answer our pasuk, but more importantly, it'll lead to another question and answer that I think has tremendous application and importance and relevance for our lives. I want to read to you the entire Midrash, so take a seat, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. The Midrash says as follows. Rabbi Chiya bered Rav Ada de Yafo. Rabbi Chiya, the son of Rav Ada of Yafo, Jafo, maybe you've been there in Israel. He says, Terach oved litzlamim, umocher haya. Terach was a manufacturer and a seller of idols. Okay, he was a wholesaler. Hadzman, one day, nafik le'atar, he went out. Hoshiv le'Avraham mocher tahtav. And he had his son Avraham be in his stead. Okay, salesman in his stead. Reminds me of a story of Avraham Ovadia Yosef. That one day he was a little boy in class. He didn't show up. Hacham Ezra Atiyeh, his rabbi, said, "Where's Ovadia?" The student said, "He didn't come today." The next day he didn't show up. Where's Ovadia? Anyways, he found out that his father stopped sending him to school. This is in a time where poverty was at all-time high in Israel, and his father needed Ovadia to work for him in the store. Chacham Ezra Atiyeh left the classroom, went to the store. He saw the father. He said, "What's Ovadia doing here?" He said, "Hacham, I need him for work." Chacham Ezra Atiyeh said, "But he's got to be in school." He said, "But Hacham, we don't have money. We need the money. I need the parnasah. I need him to work." Chacham Ezra Atiyeh said, "Okay, you need work, no problem." He took off his jacket. He put on the apron. He said, "I'm here to work." But Ovadia goes back to class. And his father said, he's like, "But Chacham, you're a big rabbi. Has v'shalom." Chacham Ezra Atiyeh said, "I may be a big rabbi, but Chacham Ovadia is going to be Gadol Hador." He goes back to class. "You need work? I'm here." And sure enough, his father listened. He sent him back to class. I'm not sure if he took Chacham Ezra Atiyeh up on his offer and he made him work for him or not. But Chacham Ovadia, this is one of the stories of how he became Chacham Ovadia with the sight, the vision of his rabbi Rav Ezra Atiyeh. So anyways, unlike Chacham Ovadia, Avraham's father owned a idol worship house, a warehouse, and he asked Avraham to take his place in the store one day. Hava ati bar enash ba'e deizban. A person would come in wanting to purchase. Hava amar le, Avraham would say, bar kama sheninat. How old are you now? How old are you? Hava amar le, Bar Hamshin o Shittin. I'm 50, I'm 60, whatever the age happened to be. Hava Amar Le, and Avraham would respond, Vai le lehu gavra, woe to you, dehu bar shittin, that you're 60, uba'ilim is God le bar yoma, and you want to sagad. Sagad means to bow. You want to bow to something that's one day old. What a hazit. You're 60 and you're bowing down to a one day old item. My father made this idol yesterday. I saw him making it. Hava mitbayesh veholech lo. And the customer obviously would get embarrassed and he would leave. He would not make a purchase. Obviously, this is bad for business. It's good for Hashem, but it's bad for business. Anyways, Hadzman atat hada iteta. One day a lady came. Te'ina bida hada pinach de solet. She was holding in her hand a large plate of fine flour. Amra le, she said to Avraham, Halach, here, karav kadamehon. I wanted to bring a gift to the idols. If Abraham, could you please offer this flour to the idols on my behalf? Tell them it's from Sally, and I love the idols, and they should help me, please, with my parnasa. Okay. Amra le, said to Avraham, okay, read that already. Come, nasiv buklesa biyadeh. What did Avraham do? He got up, he took an axe, he put it in his hand, v'netberon lekulhum psalaya. He smashed all the idols. V'yahav buklesa biyadad rabba dahava benehon. Then he put the axe in the hand of the largest idol that was still remained standing. He didn't destroy. Kevan de'ata abu. When his father came, Amar le man avad leon keden. Who did this to the idols? Amar le, Avraham responded, Man ikhpar minach. Dad, what can I tell you? Hada iteta te'ina la hada pinach de solet. A lady came in carrying a large plate of flour. Amrad li, she said to me, Havlach karev kadmehon. She said, could you please offer it to the idols? Karevat kadmehon. So I offered the plate of flour to the idols. V'had abad den amar. And this idol said, I'm going to eat first. V'den amar ana yachol kadmai. And the other one said, I'm going to eat first. And what do you want me to tell you? The angels the idols started fighting. Kam hadin rabbah. And this biggest one, the hava benehon, he stood up. Nasiv buklesa, he took the axe. And tabrinun, and he broke them. Marle, Terach then responded, Ma'at maflah bi. What are you making jokes with me? Making fun of me? Yad'ini nun? Do idols do they know what's going on? That they could hit each other and fight each other? Amar le, Avraham said to his father, V'lo yishme'u oznecha ma shepicha omer. Dad, let your ears hear what your own mouth is saying. You yourself just said they're powerless. How are you bowing down? You're admitting they're powerless. Nasbei umasre le Nimrod. Now Terach was fed up. He took his son Avraham to Nimrod. We know Nimrod was he was the ruler of the entire civilized world. Some say Nimrod was who? Hammurabi. Okay, some say Nimrod was Hammurabi. If you heard of Hammurabi's code, okay? I'm not a historian, so I'm not endorsing, I'm not saying yes, I'm not saying no, I'm just telling you an opinion. Some say Nimrod was Hammurabi. It is interesting that the Pasuk says when there was the battle of the 4 kings versus the 5 kings, we know Nimrod had another name. It was Amraphel. Amraphel does sound a little bit like Amrabi, okay, maybe if you stretch a little bit. Either way, he brings him to Nimrod. Nimrod, I need your help. My son Avraham, he's going off the derech. Amar le Avraham. Amar le nisgud le nura. Nimrod said, listen, if you don't want to bow down to man-made images, I understand. So let's bow down to fire. It's a very powerful force. Fire. We benefit from fire. We heat in the heat, in the sun. Amar le Avraham. Avraham said though, nisgud le maya. Maybe we should bow down to the water. De matfin nura, because they extinguish fire. Maybe we should bow down to the water, no? Amar le Nimrod, okay, nisgud le maya. He said, okay, you're right, let's bow down to the water. Amar le, Avraham said, 1 second. Im ken nisgod le'anana. Maybe we should bow down to the clouds which carry the water. Amar le nisgod le'anana. He said, okay, let's bow down to the clouds. Amar le said, 1 second. Im ken nisgod le'ruha. Maybe we should bow to the wind, the mevader anana, which scatters the clouds. Amar le nisgod le'ruha. Okay, bow down to the wind. Amar le, 1 second. Beniz. Maybe we should bow down le'bar inish, to man who contains wind. Mankind breathes, and he's able to. He breathes in the air. He takes out the air. Man controls air. Let's bow down to man. Amar le. So Nimrod said, "Milin at mishta'eh." You're just speaking empty words. You're taking me in circles. I realize. Ani mishta'ave ella le'ur. I'm only going to bow down to the fire. If you don't want to bow down, I'm going to throw you in it. Let your God that you believe in, I don't know who it is, but let him, whoever you believe in, Avraham, let him come in and save you. And this is, by the way, right? This is the famous test of Avraham, one of the 10 tests. Brought down over here in the Midrash. He threw him into the Ur, fire. By the way, that's where the name Ur Kasdim came from, fire of Chaldea. Havataman Haran. Haran was there. Ka'em Pelig. He was Palig, he was unsure. He didn't know, am I Jewish, am I not Jewish? I believe in Avraham's argument, but I also like the other lifestyles. Amar, so he said as follows. Haran, Avraham's brother, said to himself, Manafshach, whatever happens, Im nitzeach Avraham ana amar min de Avraham ana. If Avraham is victorious, I'll say I'm from him. Im nitzeach Nimrod ana amar de Nimrod ana. And if Nimrod wins, I'll say I'm with him. He was a winner picker. Kevan sheyarad Avraham lekivshan ha'esh v'nitzol. When Avraham descended to the fiery furnace and was saved, Amra len, Nimrod said to Haran, and whose side are you on? And Amar Lehon, and he kept true to his promise that he made to himself. And he said, Min Avraham ana. He said, I'm with him. I'm with Avraham. Natlu ve'shlichu le'ur. They threw him into the fire. Nihmeru b'nei me'av. Unfortunately for him, his innards were burned. Ve'yatzeu met ap'nei terach aviv. And as he exited, he died before Terach, his father. And you could say, interesting way, that Haran was the first guy to die al Kiddush Hashem. He dies al Kiddush Hashem. He's following truth and monotheism. And why didn't God save him as well is a complicated question, not for now. But he relied on a miracle. He didn't really believe in Hashem. He was just going for I'm not sure what, different answers. But Hadahu dichtiv, the Midrash ends with one line and says, and that's what it means. Vayamot Haran apene terach. That's what it means, that he died in front of his dad. It means that he died there, as the story says, that he came out of the furnace. And because, al penei over here means because of his father. And he died in Ur Kasdim, because that's why he died, in the fire. In other words, Terach handed over his son Avraham, which led to Haran also having to decide, and then he died in the fire. So this is the Midrash. Sure, 99% of you have heard this Midrash before. If you didn't, then, here it is. This is the source. Midrash Rabbah in Perashat Noah, last week's Perashah. And the question that's asked over here by the Ori Yehezkel, he says, it's very hard to understand this Midrash. He says that he says for a few reasons. But one of the main questions he asks, an interesting question. He says, turn to Maimonides, Rambam, in the Laws of Idol Worship, chapter 1, when the Rambam goes through the origins of how it all started. He says they started worshipping God first, but then from God it led to worshipping his emissaries, the stars and the moons, and then they forgot about God and they just bowed down to the stars and the moons. And then he says, then Avraham was born. Look at this over here. Chapter 1 of Maimonides, Halacha Gimel. Kevan she'igmal etan zeh. When this mighty man was weaned, התחיל לשוטט בדעתו. והוא קטן. He started thinking. He's still young, but he's thinking. התחיל לחשוב ביום בלילה. He started contemplating day and night. היה תמה. He was very bothered. איך אפשר שיהיה הגלגל הזה נוהג תמיד? How is it that the world goes round? Think about it. Every day the world goes round. Turns around one full time. Sun's rotating. Earth is rotating. Everything's moving. Who's moving it? Lo yeh lo manhig? No, there's no leader. No one turning it. Can't be turning itself. If you put a bottle, it's called inertia. Nothing gonna move the bottle until something moves it. So who moved the earth? Well, you're gonna say maybe a force came. Okay, well, who moved that force? Who moved that wind? The original thing that moved first, whoever moved it, who moved it? How did it move itself? And these are Abraham's thinking about these questions. He was curious. Lo haya lo melamed. He didn't have a teacher. He didn't have precedent. Ela meshuka be'ur kasdim. He was in, like we just said, Chaldea, among idol worshippers. Ve'avi ve'imo ve'chol ha'am ve'kachavim. Everyone's worshipping idols. Ve'lebo meshotet u'mevin ad sheyasik derech ha'emet. Until he realized that the truth, that there's one God, that he's the force behind everything. And he realized Avraham, everyone else is mistaken. Uben 40 shana hikir Avraham et bor'o. He was 40 years old. He was 40 years old, Avraham, till he realized this. Unbelievable. And then he started having arguments with people, and conversations. He had to develop his thoughts. Interesting number 40, by the way. It's a significant number, 40. We've spoken about, we had a whole class on the number 40. 40 is a number of change. But the number 40, it says, you don't understand your teacher until 40 years old. It takes you 40 years to develop your thoughts. Okay? That's why sometimes I grow a beard, so that people think I'm 40. Okay, anyways. He started... he started contemplating and then arguing when he had his thoughts developed. It's okay, don't worry, I'm not sharing with you my thoughts. It's all thoughts of people that are older than 40, so you have nothing to worry about. And until everyone slowly started, coming with Avraham to monotheism. But you see from this Rambam something very interesting. Avraham Avinu, it wasn't an easy thing to realize that there was a God. It was a serious endeavor. He spent a long time, deep inquiries that he had to undertake. Yet the Midrash over here comes and makes it sound like it was a little bit of, it was a joke. Some mockery. Little flower, breaking idols with an axe. Like it's a little joke. It's not a joke. I mean, the Rambam says it took Avraham a long time. It took him 40. So once he, for 40 long years, has to think about this, and he finally realizes there's a God, and he works on these arguments. He had to argue. It was... Now you're telling me a little mockery did the trick? Nodi Haskell says a very powerful idea. And he says something that I think it's an important lesson for us. You could spend your entire life knowing something. You can know it. But at the end of the day, a person always may still have a feeling. A person may have their heart being drawn to do something. And we mentioned many times that in life it's not enough to know. Because knowing doesn't always do the trick. You still have the urge. And often in life, we act based on urge. We act based on feeling. And so sometimes you need to get rid of the feeling in the heart. You see, knowledge, reading a book will only help put the thought in here. Knowledge will not help putting the thought in here. And the Midrash is teaching us over here, so how do I do that? How do I get the thoughts ingrained into my heart? You know what the Midrash says? Something very powerful. You know what the trick is? Mockery. Using mockery as a tool to overcome my temptations. Litzanut, we learned many times in the past. Litzanut, derision, cynicism, exaggeration, right? Litzanut. We learned in the past how it could be a very bad thing. Ramchal talks about litzanut in his book, Mislai Sharim. He says, stay away from litz. David HaMelech in his first pasuk in Tehillim says, stay away from litz. Litz is a very bad guy. Litz is a guy who could burst your inspiration. Maybe you start getting religious, starting to wear religious, act religious, talk religious, do religious. And then you have that uncle or that person that says, oh, black hat, oh, rabbi now, look at you, we're going to call you Rebbitzin, right? And they're making fun of you and your lifestyle. And you explain to them, but what do you mean? Look, it says this, it says that. And the Leits, they don't even care to argue your points. They don't have arguments. They're just trying to burst your bubble. These are people that pull you down in life. Leits. Not because they have good questions, not because they're curious, but opposite. They feel threatened by you and your choices. And the only way for them to defend that on themselves, to themselves, is they got to knock you down. You see someone doing something important, elites will take it and make it unimportant. What do you, oh come on, look at, you stop smoking. Oh wow, look at you, all health freak, huh? Yeah, all right, okay. Let me tell you, yeah, because eating Oreos is so healthy. Right? They say something like that. As if because you can eat Oreos, now you should also smoke. That's what a lit is. We've had long classes about a lit. Very dangerous guy. Don't bother, by the way, trying to answer a lit. Don't bother trying to ridicule a lit. Don't try to rebuke a lit. Don't try to tell him straight. Shlomo HaMelech says, Al tochach litz. Don't waste your time and your breath and your energy on a litz. You try to talk to a litz, they're going to just throw you out of the door. The best thing you could do for a litz is just avoid them. They ain't listening. Maybe it's a guy sitting next to you on a plane. And he's there to just knock your religion and your way. Litzanit is usually a very bad thing. The Midrash is coming and teaching us, though, like we've learned many times, that everything in life could be good and could be bad. And litzanut could be bad, but litzanut could be a very powerful tool to use. The same way it knocks down inspiration, you could and you have to use litzanut to knock down evil, to remove bad thoughts. Remember Eliyahu Hanavi when he was on the mountain with the idol worshippers, and they were doing a test to see which God is right. So they praying all morning to their God. And what did Eliyahu do? He said, guys, maybe your God is sleeping. Maybe raise your volume a little bit. Maybe he can't hear you. Right? Eliyahu Hanavi is very clever. He's using litzanut. And litzanut has to be used against evil. Against the wrong things. That is the right time to show up with your laughter and show them how it's so ridiculous, because you got to remove it from here, and litzanut is how you remove it from here, from the heart. And we know this. When God took us out of Egypt, He didn't just take us out. He made a whole circus show out of Egypt. He made them into a laughing stock. Pasuk says, "Asherit alalti b'Mitzrayim." God turned them into a joke. He made a joke out of Egypt. The grasshoppers, and then this one and that one. When you say the story of Egypt, you have to laugh with your kids out loud. LOL, what a loser Paro was. You gotta use laughter. Because what does laughter do? Laughter knocks things down. Right? Mockery, cynicism. A cynic knocks things down. You got to use that in the right time and place. You've heard of the expression, laugh your problems away, right? In a way, that's what it's saying here. You got to be able to laugh at your problems, to laugh at your enemies. Ramchal, when he says people are making fun of you for your religiosity or whatever you're doing in life, he's giving an example of religion. But whatever it is that you're doing, but you're pursuing, he says, Ramchal says, you know what you got to do? Opposite. You laugh at them. You got to mock them to yourself. How they're ridiculous. And laughing is a very powerful tool to sometimes get rid of bad thoughts, evil thoughts. Not always can you do it intellectually. You got to do it with humor, with exaggeration. You know who's great at this, by the way? Ben Shapiro. Okay, if you ever listen to him, Ben Shapiro, and when he talks about politics, he very, very often will do this when he's trying to argue a certain point. So, as an example, when there's media bias and the media is covering two different, two stories differently based on their political, alignment. So Ben Shapiro will say, "Oh, I forgot, the rules only apply depending on the narrative." He's making a little joke, but it's very wise, very sharp. He's using what Ben Shapiro's doing, right? He's using letzanut. His famous line, "Facts don't care about your feelings." It's a quote, it's a sharp line, it's a way of ridiculing what people overemphasize their emotional feelings over objective truth. So he makes a little line, "Facts don't care about your feelings." That's very powerful. That's letzanut, for good. Yeah? When there's extreme shifts in political correctness, he says something like, soon you won't be able to say hello to somebody without offending them. So he's making a joke, but it's a very, very powerful joke. It's letzanut for good. High taxes. Oh yes, because if we take away all the businessmen's money, then they obviously will have ability to thrive and hire more people. Right? It's a backwards item. So this is something that we have to learn to use when we're trying to get rid of the naysayers, the enemies, the evil that approaches us. Rabbi Nachman of Breslov calls this, by the way, he coins the phrase, a holy laughter. He says it's holy laughter. Person has to know when to laugh in a holy way to combat the Yetzer Hara, combat the evil. Sometimes Yetzer Hara will come and tell you you're no good. You're zero. Look, you're trying, not working, gets you to despair. Yeush, depression. As my sister-in-law says, depresh. Okay? So, you have these self-doubts. So he says you got to laugh at those self-doubts. Got to laugh at them. He says, what you got to do? Imagine that they're actual people trying to drag you down. Imagine those thoughts are people that maybe you don't even like. They're trying to pull you down. You got to laugh at them. Look at this guy, he's trying to pull me down. Right? You got to laugh in order to get rid of the problem. He tells a story of a fellow that was struggling with anger. Ka'as. Anyone here struggle with anger? No one here, I'm sure. But just maybe someone that's struggling with anger. So he says that anger is Yetzer Hara. He's trying to fuel ego, getting us to ruin our relationships, lose self-control. Remember, Ezehu gibor hakovesh et yitzro. Strength is self-control. So sometimes the Yetzer Hara. So there's a guy one time, he was struggling with anger. And he advised the person to step back and see the anger for what it was. A fleeting and almost laughable impulse, unworthy of taking over his mind. By smiling at the ridiculousness of becoming upset over small things, the person could diminish the power of the anger itself. Next time you're about to get angry, try to take a step out of yourself and look at yourself. You ever saw a guy get angry from the outside? You're seeing someone get angry and you realize this guy's losing it over the silliest thing. And you actually like laughing at the guy, like, yeah, he's losing his mind over his kid who dropped a little tahine on the floor. The guy's what a bozo. But you know what? When you're getting angry, try to take yourself out and see yourself and say, whoa, look at this. Yetzirah's trying to get me upset. And start laughing at yourself. And the Yetzirah is trying to pull you down. And all of a sudden, you'll see the anger is going away. You got to be able to do that. We have to laugh away our problems, our evil thoughts, our inclination. If you're jealous of people in the social media, you see guys traveling, you know what you got to tell yourself? Don't say it out loud to people, maybe you don't want to offend them, but to yourself, use letzanut, and you can make a joke. Say, wow, it took them 50 takes till they finally captured their greatest moment. Not bad. You know? But you see today these videos of social media versus reality, and what it looks like for a split second on this thing, and then the real take, and how it wasn't as alluring as they make it to seem on the video. So you make a joke out of it. Wow, they really must be living life. Putting a picture for everyone to think they had a good time, and you chuckle. And that's a powerful way of getting rid of the jealousy that you may be having. Or if you feel like you talk gossip often, so make a little joke next time when you're about to talk gossip. Say, you know what? If I say this right now, I'm going to win an award for the most pointless information shared. You know, I'm going to get a prize. Me, for sharing the most pointless information. You know, or maybe if I do this, and I buy this watch, I'll finally fit in for keeping up with the Joneses. You know, maybe if I get that watch, they'll actually invite me to their parties from now on. You know, you make it because you know it's not true, but you turn it into a joke, and it actually helps you combat. If you feel like maybe your son is being, I don't know, tempted to be cruel to people in class. You know, so maybe they got to remind themselves. Or maybe you feel like maybe sometimes you're saying not nice things. So you got to use a little litzanut. Yeah? Oh yeah, nothing says cool like disrespecting other people. Right, yeah, that's cool. So you're using mockery to get rid of evil. Right? Sometimes we're afraid of failure. We're afraid to make mistakes. So you got to make a joke out of it. You know? Maybe if I mess up, they'll put me in the Hall of Fame for worst presentations. In public speaking, they used to tell us if you were afraid of the crowd, they tell people in public speaking. I personally never went to public speaking, to be honest. I once asked my mentor if I should go to one of these public speaking courses. He told me not to. He said they make you sound very robotic. It takes away the personal touch. That was his opinion. I said, but what do you mean, Rabbi? How do I learn how to speak? He said, what do you mean? What's your phone number? So I told him my phone number. He said, look, you just said it. You don't have to take a course. You got to know what you want to say, and you just got to deliver. So I followed his advice. I think it turned out pretty okay. But they say that in public speaking, they tell them, if you're nervous when you get up, imagine everyone, in their boxers. Imagine everyone, obviously only the males, don't imagine it, right? Inappropriate. But they make a laughter, make a thing to get rid of the fear, to get rid of the anxiety. You overcome that by using litzanut for good. You see? Very powerful idea. So coming back, Avraham Avinu, as much as he knew there is a God, but he still needed to use litzanut. He needed to turn it into a joke, because he knew that there was still a little part of him that maybe his heart would get swayed, even though his mind understands. And the way to remove that pressure from the Yetzer on my heart is by turning it into a ridiculous item, turning it into a joke. Now it's hazir if I do it. It's pathetic. I'm gonna get angry now. Look at me getting angry over a little thing. What a ridiculous thing. And by doing that, you actually control yourself from getting angry. And that's the holy laughter of today's lesson. So whatever your problems are, maybe they're outside people, maybe they're internal voices, and may we be zocheh to laugh away our issues and be able to step up like Avraham Avinu. Okay, my friends, we'll stop over here. Have a wonderful day, and hopefully we'll see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.